This Day in Sports History. This episode is brought to you by Sterling Roastery. When the morning's turning colder, there is no better way to start your day than with a cup of coffee brewed with fresh roasted beans from Sterling Roastery. With the same care and dedication they take with their soap, the Sterling folks roast their beans sourced from around the world with great care and expertise. Check out their full line of beans at sterlingsoap.com. And right now, you can win one of 3 $50 Sterling Roastery gift cards. Use it for yourself or as a gift to a friend. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways to enter today. That's sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways for your chance to win a Sterling Roastery gift card. Well, hey there, and welcome back to another edition of This Day in Sports History, a member of the Sports History Network. It is November 21st, and on this day, Bobby Knight got mad, Bill Veeck sold out, and Bob Cousy returned after a really long layoff. Those stories and more on today's edition, plus a non-sports fun fact that you probably thought had truly been relegated to the history books. But let's start with what happened on this day back in 1987, when Bobby Knight got ejected from an exhibition game, and then he pulled his team off the floor. The Indiana Hoosiers were the defending national champions, and were a couple of days from getting their regular season underway at this point. This was a preseason exhibition game against the Soviet national team in front of a capacity crowd at Assembly Hall. The Soviets were doing a tour around the states, playing hoops with a variety of teams. They'd played the Milwaukee Bucks in late October in a 3-team round-robin tournament called the McDonald's Cup. The Bucks had beaten the Soviets by 12. They were 5-2 on their tour so far, were the Soviets. A few nights after this game with the Hoosiers, the Soviets would travel to North Carolina for a game against Dean Smith's Tar Heels. Well, Coach Knight was not overly happy with the Soviet team being in the country, especially with the Olympics coming up the following summer. His stance was, I don't know why we're letting them over here to play. I'd let them go play the Czechs because we're going to play them in the Olympics in Seoul, and we don't need to be letting them train here. Well, nonetheless, on this night, the Soviets were on the schedule, tickets had been sold, and so they were playing the game. When the ball went into the air, though, the Soviets started treating Bobby Knight's kids like prisoners get treated in the Gulag. With just over 15 minutes to play in this friendly, the Soviets were leading 66-43, and Knight was not happy. He wasn't happy with how his team was playing. He wasn't happy with the Soviet coach, who was allowed to leave his coaching box without penalty, while Knight had already been reprimanded for the same thing, and he definitely was not happy with Big Ten referee Jim Burr for missing several calls, such as no penalty given to the Soviets for having 6 men on the court in the first half at one point, no violation given on a free throw that Knight thought was blatantly obvious. When Knight got up to argue that point, he was hit with a technical foul by Burr. That obviously did not stifle Knight, and he kept coming after him. After a foul call against the Soviets, Knight continued to harangue Burr, who blew the whistle, turned to the scorer's table, and teed him up again. At that point, Knight wanted to talk with the man in charge of the officials for the series of exhibition games, Bill Wall. Knight walked from the bench down to the other end of the court, pointed at Wall, and then for the next 30 seconds or so delivered an expletive-laden rant about Burr. Wall took it and said nothing. Knight turned and walked back to his bench and called timeout. During the timeout, Knight received his 3rd technical foul of the evening. Under college rules, which were being observed for this game, Knight was supposed to exit the arena. Knight said if he left the arena, he was going to pull his team off the court. Burr did not budge, and so when Knight started to walk to the locker room, he motioned for his team to follow him, and the game was forfeited to the Russians. The Soviets were a bit stunned and waited on the court for several minutes before walking back to their locker room. A few days later, Knight offered an apology, mostly to the fans who'd come out to watch his team play, saying, "As far as taking the team off the floor after I was ejected, there are sometimes things I wish I could do over again, and that was one of them, because of the involvement of our fans in the game. It was a situation with an official that I've had all kinds of problems with in the past, including the NCAA tournament last year. I should have said, all right, forget it. Let's just go on and play the game. From that point on, I was really wrong, and I'm really apologetic to our fans for what should have been a good game. On this night in 1949, Bill Veeck sold the Cleveland Indians to pay for his divorce settlement. Now, Veeck was an innovator and a forward thinker. I've talked about him several times here on this podcast. He integrated the American League when he bought Larry Doby's contract and brought him up to the Indians in 1947. He brought Satchel Paige over from the Negro Leagues the next season, making him the oldest rookie in Major League history. He was always looking for a way to change the game and entertain the fans in an effort to keep them buying tickets. He brought Max Patkin, the rubber-faced clown prince of baseball, to manage Cleveland for a day. When Patkin took his place in the coach's box and went into his routine, the fans loved it. The American League suits hated it. He nearly became the first owner to take his team to the West Coast. After a series of auto races ran on the field at Cleveland Stadium, Veeck threatened to pack the team and head to Los Angeles. And of course, the last time the Cleveland Indians won a World Series was 1948, when Veeck owned the team. There was never a doubt that Veeck was 100% committed to the teams he owned, and that includes financially. He had just about all of his money wrapped up in the Cleveland Indians. But when his marriage with his first wife, Eleanor, soured and the divorce was finalized, Veeck owed her $2.2 million. He did not have that kind of liquidity, and the only way to pay the settlement was to sell the Indians. Veeck would take a few years off, but would be back in baseball in 1951 with the purchase of the St. Louis Browns, and then later was part of a group that bought the Chicago White Sox from the Cousy family in 1959. A couple of all-time great running backs closed out their college careers on this day. Let's start in 1981 when University of Southern California's Marcus Allen put an exclamation point on a fantastic season. Allen was the first collegiate football player to rush for 2,000 yards in a season. He'd already accomplished that before this final regular season game against crosstown rival UCLA. But he still had more to do. First, a win would deny the Bruins a chance to play in the Rose Bowl. Second, a season that started with such promise and a #1 ranking back in early October got derailed by losses to Arizona and Washington. A win against the crosstown rival Bruins would make everything seem all right again. But things did not look very promising at the start of the fourth quarter. Despite an Allen touchdown, the Trojans trailed 21-12. A USC field goal made it a 6-point game, and then when Troy West picked off a Tom Ramsey pass with just under 5 to play, it gave the Trojans a final chance to find the points they needed. Allen capped the ensuing play with a 5-yard touchdown run with 2 minutes 14 seconds left. The PAT gave the Trojans the 22-21 lead that they would hang on to. Marcus Allen finished the day with 219 yards rushing and his 2 touchdowns. He finished the year with 2,342 yards and 23 touchdowns. He held the record for rushing yards in a season until 1988 when Barry Sanders eclipsed that mark. He's still 4th on that list. His 1981 season would eventually lead to him being awarded the Heisman, the Maxwell, and also named an All-American. But, strangely, in the 1982 NFL Draft, Marcus Allen was just the 9th overall pick and the 3rd running back taken, behind Stanford's Darren Nelson and Arizona State's Gerald Riggs. On this day in 1925, Illinois running back Red Grange capped off his incredible college career and then made a unique announcement about his future. The Illini faced off against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Prior to the game, the Champaign News-Gazette asked Grange whether he had signed a professional contract, a rumor that had been floating around all season. Well, he had signed a contract with C.C. Pyle prior to the season getting underway, but of course, Grange could not admit to that, and so he denied everything. The game on this day was in Columbus, and the Buckeye faithful were eager for a glimpse of the galloping ghost, but Red was holed up in his hotel room, staying away from the public, even having a doppelganger fill in for him in a pre-game parade. 82,500 people were on hand to watch this one at Ohio Stadium. It was not the greatest performance of his career, but he at least left a positive impression. Grange ran for 113 yards and passed for 42 more. He didn't score in this one of the rare occasions on which he didn't, but he did set up the two they scored in a 14-9 win for Illinois. After the game, Grange announced that he was signing with the Chicago Bears. Well, in reality, he already had. He was in attendance at the Bears game against the Green Bay Packers on the 22nd, and he would make his professional debut with the Bears on the 26th against the Chicago Cardinals. And on this day in 1969, Bob Cousy returned to the NBA after a 6-year layoff. Cousy had retired from the Boston Celtics back in 1963 at the age of 35, and after helping the Celtics win 5 consecutive NBA championships. After retiring, he wrote his biography, Basketball is My Life, and then he took over as head coach of Boston College. Now, coaching a college basketball team in the late 60s was not anywhere close to what it is today with, million-dollar contracts and endorsement deals and a whole lot more. In the off-season, Cousy had to supplement his income by working at a gas station to support his family. This is a 13-time NBA All-Star, a league MVP in 1957, and he's having to supplement his paycheck pumping gas. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying you can kind of see the drastic differences between 1969 and 2025, right? Also, the Coos was not a big fan of recruiting kids to come play for him. So, when the Cincinnati Royals rang him up, he was ready for a change of scenery. Now, not sure if a severed horse head was involved, but Cousy said the Royals made him an offer that he could not refuse. So, I'm just going to assume that there was a whole lot of money involved instead. And Cousy decided at the age of 41 to add a little spice to his life and be a player coach. Well, on this night, Cousy was not in the starting lineup, but he did come off the bench to play his first game since his retirement from the Celtics. He scored 3 points and had 2 assists in a 133-119 win over Chicago. He only played in 7 games during the season, and then he hung up the sneaks for real after it ended. It was the only season of 14 he played that he was not an All-Star. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Did you know that there is still a person who uses an iron lung to assist breathing? Martha Lillard was 5 years old when she contracted polio in 1953 and became confined to an iron lung to breathe. She now only uses it to sleep at night in her Oklahoma home. Thankfully, Jonas Salk's polio vaccine was introduced in 1955 and drastically reduced the number of polio cases in the U.S., which also reduced the need for iron lungs. That's all I've got for you today. I'll be back tomorrow with more This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.